really excited about this movie. This is perfect for Fantastic Fest, and what a great way for us to close it out here. So this has got to be exciting for you.
Yeah, I mean, Metallica, right? They're Metallica. Felt blessed. It was an honor to get the call, and they asked if a 3D film was something that had interested me, a 3D concert film with Metallica more precisely. And then they had this crazy idea of marrying the narrative, or marrying a narrative to concert footage. So that felt unique and strange and weird, and I think in this day and age, you know, it has its own merits just being different.
Yeah, absolutely. And were you a big Metallica fan growing up?
I was. I grew up with this. I bought their albums in high school, and it was funny when I first got the job, because you don't want to meet your heroes often,
right?
You know, and I know in my own life I had one or two experiences where I met someone who I was super fond of, and afterwards I wasn't as fond. So I remember when I got the call, I looked over and I saw like my CD rack, and I was counting the Metallica albums. I was like, man, I really don't want to throw those out at the end of this process, because I am such a big fan of theirs. But they proved not only to be just wonderful collaborators, but just really lovely dudes, nice guys.
Absolutely. Well, and that must have been a great call to get, because I'm sure you get called for interesting work all the time, but for something like this that you're actually a fan of, that actually, I think, shines through in the film too.
Thank you. I mean, it was made for the fans, and that was our intention. And you know, my first intention was to make them proud, the band proud, and make sure they weren't disappointed. And next was the fifth band member, you know, the fans. And the band is also very aware and very grateful for their fans, and they know that, you know, they are there because of them. So it was made for you guys.
Absolutely. And you also had the great Dane DeHaan, who we've been watching for a while, and his star is on the rise. And although he didn't have any real lines of dialogue, it's incredibly expressive. So that must have been interesting to see as well, how much he can do saying so little.
He was really he was a blessing for the production. I mean, I was a fan of his before I got to meet him, and his you know, passion and talent is one thing, but in this day and age, I give a lot when someone is just kind, you know. Yeah. And Dane is not only a super talented actor, but he's just a really solid, nice person. So we were lucky to have him, and the physicality that the role demanded was brutal. I mean, we were doing heavy things every day, and we had a wonderful stunt department to help, but there was a lot of physicality for Dane, and he never once had any complaint, or, you know, he was professional and kind, and we were lucky to have him.
Yeah, that's great. Well, do you suppose there's a moment on the set that you'll always remember, something that's just very special to you?
I remember when we first started shooting the first concert, and we were sitting in the control room, and I mean, their energy is palpable, and their show is just incredible. So my goal was just trying to capture that and make sure that I'm in the right place at the right time, you know, for the right moments. In that control room, though, right when we started filming, I remember I turned around, and Q Prime, the gentleman that managed Metallica, were in the room with us, and I turned around and was like, "Come on, Q Prime, this is dope." I mean, it was just so stunning to see, and you know, the Tesla coil kicks up, and Kirk is like standing in front of it, and there's like electricity, and it was just like, whoa. Yeah. So that was a cool moment.
Yeah, it's very cool, and now you get to count these guys as friends. So that's.
I'd like to think so. Yeah.
You get to travel with them to promote this, and that's got to be kind of fun in itself too, because you know, it's one thing to make a film in sort of a controlled environment, but you're kind of seeing them in the wild as well.
It happens every time there's one of these events, or any time there's a festival that we were lucky enough to go to. I remember there's always that moment of, I'm going to introduce a film that we just made for Metallica. And that is always one of those pinch me, am I awake moments, or am I asleep rather?
Yeah, exactly. And what would you say is one of the kind of craziest moments in that set? Because they have some of the most passionate fans I think I've ever seen. So you must have seen some pretty wild stuff.
There was a lot of interesting folks. I got to definitely say the fans in Mexico are next level. I mean, those guys bring an energy that the whole building was shaking, and it had a lot to do with the music, but it had a lot to do with the fans too. Mexican metal fans were definitely the wildest and craziest bunch I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, and as far as the concept of this film, I mean, obviously it's not just a straight ahead concert film. There's a whole nother subtext that we were talking about with Dane. But you know, I saw that they all got writing credits on that. So how did that all come about with them?
Well, the whole concept was theirs from the get-go. Right. It was an idea of marrying a story to a concert, and that was the actual thing that appealed to me the most. It was such an unusual idea. I was challenged to come up with something that would be that story, and I went away and came back to them initially with protest. That was kind of the first seed, and it was a wonderful collaboration, going back and forth and informative. And every time I would meet with them, I would just have a better sense of what they were hoping to achieve within the film. And then ultimately it was meeting members of their crew, Dan Brown, specifically one gentleman that I think is their tour producer. Mm-hmm. And when he spoke of them and of his time with them, there was this immense loyalty and this incredible sense of just love and passion. You know, much like the band gives it their all every concert, there's this incredible crew of people that stand behind them and do the same. And that was the moment Trip was born, when I had met with Dan, and I just thought it was inspiring to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And how much did you have to do with the casting of Dane? Because I know that Lars had said that he had seen him in a movie and he was really interested in him at that point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember I found Dane in a stack of photos that the casting agent had sent over, and the second I saw him, I was like, "Can we get him?" Mm-hmm. He was so great in Chronicle and of course since Place Beyond the Pines and all these other wonderful films that he's been in. It was one of those moments where I felt blessed that I had an opportunity to work with him. He's super talented, and more importantly, he's just nice. Yeah. And in this day and age, man, I just, you know, the whole ego and I can't handle those situations well anymore. I'm just not patient with those situations. Yeah. And Dane was just, his work ethic and his love for the project was apparent from the get-go, and he was great. He was an honor. I'd be blessed to work with him again. Yeah.
Now, without spoiling it, the idea revolves around Trip is a roadie who's sent on a mission to find something, and I guess for lack of a better explanation, there's some things that are still mysterious about it. So was that your idea, to kind of leave things somewhat open-ended?
I certainly knew where I was going with it, and I knew what my intentions were with it. Mm-hmm. And I found through conversations with other people as we were putting it together, their interpretations were often fascinating. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't necessarily what I had seen. So early on, I think we came to an understanding that, much like Metallica's lyrics are not always, you know, here's an answer, but more of challenging you to think in ways maybe you haven't thought before, and place yourself into their music. So that was the intent with the film as well, was that you can interject yourself into Trip's story. We never set out to make a classic narrative. I mean, there's concert footage first and foremost, and the intent was never to do a beautifully little bow tie at the end. It was always meant to be different and abstract.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think the set list is interesting, the songs as well. Did you have anything to do with that, what you thought might work better for film?
They have a very specific set list, every time they go into a concert, they have a very specific and given set list that they want to use. And start again. They always use the same. No. Sure. They always have a very specific set list that they work with. So I was a little apprehensive initially about how to handle if I wanted to move something, if I wanted to place. And there's certain, we were confined because there are given certain elements that transpire on the stage at certain points within the concert. So we can't take, a song that has Doris already on the stage and put it to the front. I mean, there were certain restrictions, but they were always what's best for the movie, and they were open to moving things around if we needed to, and we tried to stay as faithful as we could. But it was interesting to see that certain portions of the narrative accepted songs, or the songs accepted the narrative, whereas another song wouldn't work as well. So things fell into place.